Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are getting things settled, literally.
That's right.
We're looking at the final steps for Kesser and Steen's Apple Cider Project Stabilization, Clarification. Basically, how do they get it bottled?
Yeah, and this is where, home brewing kind of meets a bigger decision point, clarification. It's just about getting the solid bits out, right?
The suspended stuff. It's like yeast and fruit pulp.
Exactly. The stuff floating around before you bottle it.
But this brings up that whole question they wrestled with, doesn't it? How rustic is too rustic. You've got the romantic idea of a farmer's cider.
Right. Maybe a bit cloudy, natural, like Oma's approach, perhaps.
Yeah.
Minimal intervention.
But then the source mentions the risk of it looking like, well, like a duck pond if you're not careful.
Hey, yeah. So there's a balance. You want that natural feel, maybe signal no chemicals, but you also want something people actually want to, drink. How do you get clarity without overdoing it?
Okay, so let's break that down. The simplest method is basically just gravity and patience, letting things settle.
That's the absolute foundation. Gravity pulls the solids, the lees down to the bottom. Patience is usually the hard part, though.
I bet. And there are ways to speed it up, right? Like bentonite clay or egg whites, things that bind to the floaty bits.
Sure, fining agents, bentonite, isinglass, even milk protein sometimes. They help clump the particles together, flocculation it's called, so they drop out faster.
But Kesser and Steen, they wanted to avoid adding stuff, didn't they?
That was their goal, yeah. Minimal intervention, which leads to what they decided on.
Ah, the cryo filtration, which sounds high-tech, but isn't really filtering.
Not in the typical sense, no. It's clever, actually. They're just using the cold, letting winter temperatures do the work.
So cold settling, chilling the cider way down, forces the yeast and other particles to clump and sink.
Precisely. Cold temperatures naturally encourage that flocculation. Once it gets near freezing, things settle out much more effectively. Then you just carefully rack or decant the clear liquid off the sediment.
Okay, so for them, that hits the sweet spot. It gives enough clarity, keeps that sort of natural low-fuss style, but avoids adding fining agents.
Exactly. It's letting nature assist.
And thinking about apple cider vinegar specifically, choosing this method means they also sidestep a whole other complex issue, right? Chemical stabilization.
Oh, absolutely. A huge one. When you aim for crystal clear, shelf-stable products commercially, you often get into sulfites SO2 for preservation, stopping oxidation.
But that's not straightforward, using sulfites.
Not at all. The big catch is pH. Cider, and especially vinegar, is quite acidic, meaning low pH.
Right.
And the lower the pH, the more total sulfite you need to add to get enough free SO2, the part that actually does the work to be effective.
Ah, so you might need higher doses than you think.
You often do, yeah. And that can really impact the flavor, the aroma. It can kind of dull the fruitiness. It's a whole balancing act that many hobbyists maybe understandably overlook.
So Kesser and Steen, by just using cold settling, they keep it simple. They avoid that whole pH and sulfite calculation headache.
Pretty much. And it's important to remember, whether it's perfectly bright or has a slight haze, the good stuff in the apple cider vinegar is still there.
You mean the nutrients and acids?
Exactly. You've still got pectin, vitamin C, all those organic acids, malic acetic, lactic citric, plus minerals like potassium, magnesium, iron. The cold settling is mostly about appearance. It doesn't really strip the core value.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the final look of your cider or vinegar, it really comes down to style choice, doesn't it? Balancing that natural process appeal with what you or maybe your customers expect to see in the bottle.
It really does.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you listening. If Kesser and Steen got the clarity they wanted just by using the cold, relying on nature, does it really matter if it isn't perfectly crystal clear, given all the inherent goodness still packed inside?
Something to mull on. Until next time.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are getting things settled.